Jack had been on the alien planet for 43 days. He wasn't a soldier, not a scientist. Just a man trying to survive after his transport ship crash-landed in the wild forests of Xylanine every day. He hunted small creatures, gathered roots, and fixed his old tent. Life was hard, but quiet. Till that morning, the scream changed everything. It wasn't the scream of an animal or monster. It was high, sharp, and full of fear, like a child in pain. Jack froze mid-step, his knife still in hand. The sound came from the direction of one of his traps. "Please don't let it be a sentient creature," Jack muttered, running through the thick trees. His heart pounded. He didn't want trouble. He just wanted food. As he reached the clearing, his feet stopped cold. Hanging upside down from the rope trap was a girl, not human, but close. Her skin was light blue, glowing faintly in the morning light. She had long white hair tangled in the net, and her wide purple eyes stared down at him in terror. She wore a torn robe and had strange silver cuffs. On her wrists, she thrashed like a wild animal, screaming again. Jack raised his hands. "Hey! Hey! Calm down. I'm not going to hurt you." But she didn't understand. Her eyes locked onto his teeth as he spoke. Her whole body stiffened. Then she whispered something over and over in her alien tongue. The words were quick, trembling, and full of panic. Jack activated his translator. It took a few seconds to match the dialect. Her words came through. "Please don't eat me. Please don't eat me." Jack blinked. "What? Eat you? What kind of stories have you been told?" She closed her eyes, clearly expecting death. Jack sighed and stepped closer. "Look, I'm just going to cut you down, all right? You're stuck in my trap. Not food, not prey." He pulled out his knife and sliced the rope. She dropped into his arms. With a yelp, light as a feather, she squirmed, trying to escape, but her ankle was twisted from the fall. She couldn't walk. Jack carried her back to his camp, gently, carefully. She kept looking at him like he was a monster ready to bite. Back at the campsite, Jack placed her on a soft bedroll. His tent was small, just enough for one. The fire crackled nearby. He handed her a blanket, but she flinched. "Easy," he said softly. "You're safe now, I swear." She didn't respond. Her eyes scanned the area, looking for danger or maybe a way out. Jack could tell she was in shock. He made a bowl of hot root stew and placed it in front of her. She stared at it like it was poison. Jack took a spoonful himself and ate it to show it was safe. Then he offered the bowl again. Her fingers trembled. As she touched it, she took one slow bite, then another. Then she collapsed. Jack jumped to his feet. "Hey, are you okay?" He checked her breathing. It was fine. Her skin was cool, but not freezing. No rashes, no reaction. Was it the stew? Was something in it toxic for her species? Jack cursed under his breath. Great. I save her from a trap just to kill her with soup. But before he could panic further, she stirred, still breathing, still alive, just sleeping. Staring into the fire, who was this alien girl? Why was she alone in the forest? Why did she think humans eat her kind? He didn't know yet, but something deep inside told him. This was only the beginning. Asterisk, the girl didn't wake up for hours. Jack stayed close, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest. He checked her pulse again and again, still strong. No fever, just deep sleep. It didn't make sense. One moment she was panicking, whispering things about being eaten, and the next out cold after one bite of stew. Jack leaned against a rock near the fire and rubbed his face. Either my cooking is terrible, or your people react badly to carrots. As the forest outside grew dark, he draped another blanket over her small frame. The silver cuffs on her wrists glowed faintly, pulsing like they were still active. He made a mental note to figure out what they were. At midnight, she opened her eyes. She shot up so fast, Jack spilled his canteen. Her glowing eyes locked on him and then darted around the tent. Easy. Jack raised both hands again. Okay, you fainted, but I didn't hurt you. She didn't answer. She backed into the corner of the tent like a trapped animal. Her hands trembled. Jack tapped the translator disc beside her. Can you understand this now? She squinted at it. Then in a soft voice she said, "Yes." Her voice was sharp but clear, like she hadn't spoken in days. Jack offered her water. She hesitated, sniffed it, and drank slowly, never taking her eyes off him. "My name is Jack," he said. She didn't respond. He pointed to her. "You." After a pause, she whispered, "Nari." Jack smiled. "Nice to meet you, Nari. I guess I owe you an apology, for trapping you." "You caught me," she said softly. "That's what monsters do." Jack blinked. "Monsters." Nari turned her face away. "The stories say your kind eats lost females, that humans came from fire and steal people's blood." Jack couldn't help but chuckle. "Oh, we really need a better PR team?" But Nari didn't laugh. She looked hurt. "They said if I was caught by a human, my body would disappear, and only my bones would return." Jack frowned. "Who told you all that?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled her knees to her chest, trembling again. Later that night, Jack prepared another bowl of food. This time he kept it simple, just broth and root slices. Nari stared at the bowl, then at him, then back at the bowl. "I won't eat you," Jack said with a grin. "Scout's honor." "Scout?" she asked, tilting her head. He shrugged. "Never mind." She finally took the bowl, sipped, then sighed. Not from joy, but from pure hunger relief. Jack could see it in her eyes. "You're not like they said," she whispered. "Nope," he said. "We're not all bad. Just ... some of us." She lowered the bowl and looked at him again. Her gaze was searching now, not scared. "Why didn't you hurt me?" Jack raised an eyebrow. "Why would I?" Nari said nothing, but a silent tear rolled down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away. That small moment said more than any translator ever could. Jack pointed to the cuffs on her wrists. "Those things, they hurt you?" She looked down, then nodded. "They're tracker binders. My people use them too. Control me." Jack's eyes narrowed. "They did this to you?" Nari didn't explain further, but she didn't need to. Her silence was louder than words. That night, Jack offered her a spot in the tent to sleep. She stayed curled up near the fire blanket around her shoulders like armor. He kept his distance, giving her space. But in the quiet, her voice surprised him. "You are alone here?" Jack nodded. "Ship crashed. I'm stuck until someone finds me." "Do you survive?" she asked softly. Jack looked into the fire. "'Cause I have to, and maybe 'cause I'm too stubborn to give up." Nari stared at him for a long moment, then said something he didn't expect. "You have strong eyes, like someone who fights even when there's no reason left." Jack didn't know what to say to that, but for the first time since she arrived, Nari didn't look afraid. And just before they both drifted into sleep, Jack heard her whisper again, "You." By the third morning, Nari had stopped flinching. When Jack entered the tent, she still didn't speak much. But her silence had changed. It wasn't fear anymore. It was more like watching, studying, as if trying to understand who or what he truly was. Jack, meanwhile, had spent the night tweaking the small translator cube. The AI in it had almost finished decoding her dialect. It was slow work, but he was getting closer, and he needed answers. Who was she? Why was she alone in a dangerous forest with chains on her wrists and fear in her eyes? Yes. Jack poured her a cup of hot sap tea. He spoke to the cube. "Status." The AI responded in its robotic tone. "Nari language file is now 89% complete. Full verbal bridge expected within the hour." Jack nodded and handed the tea to her. "Soon, we'll talk for real." Nari took the cup carefully. "We already speak," she said in broken English. "Yeah," Jack chuckled. "But it's like trying to fix a ship with vines and wishes." She tilted her head. "Vines and wishes?" He waved it off. "Never mind." When the translator finally pinged green, Jack activated the full bridge. "Try speaking now," he said, holding it between them. Nari looked at the cube, then back at him. "Can you understand this now?" Her voice was clearer, more fluid. Her eyes widened in surprise as her words echoed back from the device perfectly. Jack smiled. Crystal clear. She looked away. Then you should know the truth. Jack sat beside her, suddenly more serious. I'm listening. Nari's voice dropped low. Her fingers gripped the edge of the blanket around her shoulders. My people left me in the forest 2 cycles ago. They called it soul-cleansing exile, a ritual for the cursed. Cursed. Jack frowned. She nodded slowly. During a ceremony, the priests said I carried dark energy. They claimed my presence caused the crops to wither, the waters to dry, the sky to thunder. Jack crossed his arms. Let me guess, they needed someone to blame. They always choose someone young, Nari whispered. This time it was me. She turned her arm to show faint symbols branded into her skin, half faded. They marked. Me said if I returned before the trial moon ended, they'd burn me. So they left me chained in the wild as a sacrifice. Jack clenched his jaw. And you survived alone all this time? She nodded. I drank dew, ate wild roots, hid from predators, but I was going to die eventually. Her eyes flicked to him, until you caught me. There was a long pause. The fire crackled.
Out.
Trees whispered outside. Jack finally spoke. I'm sorry. For what? She asked. For what they did to you. For scaring you? For trapping you like an animal? You deserved better? Nari stared at him. Her lips parted, but no words came. No one had ever said that to her before. Not once. Later that evening, Jack used a small scanner to study the silver. Cuffs on her wrists. These are not just shackles, he said. There's tech in here, probably a tracking signal. Nari's eyes widened. They can still find me? Maybe, but I'll disable them. Jack grabbed his toolkit and sat beside her. Hold still. As he worked, she watched his face carefully. Why do you help me? She asked suddenly. Jack paused. Why not? You could have left me. You had no reason to save me, he glanced at her. People back home always said, do what's right. Even when no one's watching. Nari was silent again. But when he finished unlocking the second cuff, she slowly reached out. Tan touched his hand. Then you are rare, she said. Jack raised an eyebrow. Rare. Among your kind. Maybe among all kinds. That night, they didn't sleep far apart. The fire was warm. But something else had begun to warm the space between them. Not romance. Not yet, but trust. And for Nari, it was something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Nari was planning her escape the entire time. Jack repaired her cuffs. She didn't. Distrust him completely, not anymore, but trust. It was like learning to walk again. Slow, wobbly, full of fear. So when the cuffs finally clicked off her wrists, Jack stepped outside the tent to gather wood. She ran while she tried to. The forest welcomed her with cold wind and thick roots. Her bare feet slapped against the damp ground as she limped forward. Her ankle still wasn't fully healed, but adrenaline pushed her on. I have to go. I have to be free. I can't need him, she whispered to herself. Branches clawed at her arms and shadows danced between trees. The alien moons lit the path. With silver light, danced, but every step felt heavier. That's when she saw it. A small clearing with glowing moss. Peaceful, quiet, and in the middle. A shallow pit, covered with leaves, too late. With a sharp cry, she stepped right into it, tanned, vanished into the mud. Splash. Jack dropped the firewood when he heard the noise. That wasn't a normal forest sound. He sprinted toward the source voice, echoing Nari. What he found made him stop in his tracks. There she was, neck deep in slimy, greenish mud, stuck in one of his older, forgotten traps. Her white hair matted with goo. Her arms flailing as she hissed and kicked. Jack almost laughed, but held it back. Barely. Nari growled. Don't just stand there, help me. I thought you were sleeping, Jack said, walking over with a grin. I changed my mind, she muttered, avoiding eye contact. He reached down and grabbed her arms, pulling gently. The suction of the mud made it difficult. Relax, if I wanted. To eat you, I wouldn't season you first, he joked. She glared. It's not funny. Laughed anyway. After a few strong pulls and some slipping on his part, Jack finally managed to lift her out. She landed on the grass, with a loud splat, completely drenched in slime and embarrassment. "I hate this planet," she muttered. Jack handed her a blanket. "Good news, you found the worst trap. But I was going to disarm that one next week." Shot him a death stare. He smiled back at the camp. She sat silently by the fire, while Jack gently poured warm water over her arms and hair. Nari wasn't used to this. Being touched with care, being treated like someone who mattered. As he cleaned her face, she said quietly, "You're not what I expected." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You mean I don't have horns and taste for alien flesh?" She almost smiled. "Almost, I mean," she said. "You don't punish. You don't cage, even when I disobey." Jack shrugged. "That's because you're not a prisoner, Nari. You're a guest who just ran away." He leaned back. "Hey, I'd have run too if I thought someone was secretly planning to eat me." She finally laughed. It was small, shaky, but real. Later that night, Jack gave her his sleeping roll and used the emergency blanket for himself. But Nari hesitated. "What's wrong?" he asked. She looked at him, then at the space beside the fire. "I'll sleep here, but not alone. Not tonight." Jack didn't ask questions. He simply nodded and moved his blanket closer to hers. Just close enough to offer comfort, but not touch. The fire crackled between them. The wind howled outside, but Nari's eyes stayed on him until they closed. She dreamed of a cage, then of hands pulling her free in the dream. The hands were human, warm, strong, safe. The next morning, the forest was quiet, but something in the air felt different. Nari sat near the fire, her eyes watching the rising smoke twist into the wind. She hadn't said much since the escape attempt, but her mood had changed. Looked calmer, but not quite peaceful. Jack noticed it too. She kept touching her wrist where the cuff had been, as if something still lingered under her skin. "You feeling okay?" Jack asked, kneeling beside her. She nodded slowly. "I didn't sleep much. Nightmares again." "Not this time." She hesitated. "This time it was something strange. I dreamed of light coming from me, like fire but not burning." Jack tilted his head. "You've never had that dream before?" "Never." She paused. "Until you touched me last night." Jack didn't understand at first, but then he remembered he had held her hand while she was sinking in the mud. And again, when cleaning the dried slime from her arms, his hand had brushed her bare skin both times. "It's just a dream," Jack said. Nari didn't respond. She reached into the small satchel Jack had made for her from stitched cloth. She pulled out a smooth, crystal-like stone dark purple, veined with gold. Jack leaned in. "What's that?" Nari held it like it was sacred. A binding stone. "Binding?" Jack raised an eyebrow. "Like marriage." She looked sharply at him. "No, not for mating. For survival. It activates only when two life forces touch in harmony, usually in moments of intense fear or protection." Jack blinked. "Hey, are you saying when you saved me from that trap?" She interrupted softly. "Your touch triggered the stone. It bonded. And now." She opened her hand. The stone glowed. A faint pulse of energy rolled through the air. The fire flickered. The trees rustled without wind. Jack instinctively backed up. "What the hell?" Nari looked at him, conflicted, uncertain, afraid. "You didn't just rescue me, Jack. You connected with me. But I didn't do anything on purpose." "Doesn't matter," she said. The stone responded. "Now we are bound in some way, spiritually, maybe more." Jack rubbed his forehead. "I didn't sign up for any magical soul contract. It's not magic," Nara said. "It's ancient tech from my people's ancestors, forgotten by most. But in our old bloodlines, the stones still work." Paced back and forth. Okay. Slow down. "What does this mean? Like, exactly?" Nari looked up at him, her voice low. "It means if the bond isn't completed properly, I'll lose control." Jack's heart skipped. "Of what?" She turned her palm up. The stone hovered floating an inch above her hand. Sparks of energy snapped in the air. "Of this," she whispered, before Jack could react. The energy surged, then the stone flared like a mini sun. Suddenly Nari's sighs rolled back. Her body stiffened. The flames around the fire spiraled upward into a funnel. "Nari," he rushed forward and grabbed her shoulder in that moment. Everything stopped. The wind, the fire. Even the humming bugs in the trees. Naria's eyes returned to normal. The stone dimmed. Her body fell forward straight into Jack's arms. He held her tightly. "What just happened?" she panted, weak. "The bond was unstable. When you touched me again, it calmed it." Jack stared at the stone, now resting silently on the ground. "You're saying I stabilize you?" Nari nodded against his chest. "You're like a lightning storm," Jack said quietly. "But I'm the grounding wire." She chuckled. Weakly. That's one way to put it. Later, Jack sat beside her as she rested. "So what now?" he asked. "We stay near each other forever, just to keep you from blowing up?" Nari opened one eye. "It's not that simple." "Of course not," Jack muttered. "It never is." She took his hand suddenly. He looked at her in surprise. "If this bond stays incomplete, it will slowly tear us both apart, mind and body." Jack froze. "So how do we complete it?" Nari looked at him with eyes glowing softly under the evening light. "That is something we both must choose." The forest was never truly silent, but that night it froze. No birds, no insect chatter, no wind. Just a low, distant thumping, steady, heavy like drums carved from bone. Jack stepped outside the tent, senses sharp. The sound was coming from the east, closer with every beat. Inside the tent, Nari's eyes snapped open. She sat up fast. "They found me." Jack turned. "Who?" She didn't need to answer. From the shadows between the trees, a line of glowing eyes appeared. Tall figures, covered in bone armor and tribal markings. Some carried long ceremonial staffs. Others had bladed weapons that shimmered with energy. 10 of them, maybe more. They surrounded the camp like wolves around a fire. One stepped forward, a tall female with deep blue skin and a crown of tusks. Tied into her braids, the exiled one has broken her sentence, she boomed. Jack stood protectively in front of Nari. She didn't break anything. She survived. The leader snarled. "You speak for her, off-worlder. You shelter a cursed soul?" "I saved her life," Jack said firmly. The other warriors hissed and raised their staffs. "But..." The leader raised one hand to silence them. "Then you share her fate. Death by fire at dawn." Nari stepped out from behind Jack. Her legs trembled, but she stood tall. "I will not return in chains," she said loudly. "Not again. This human has done more for me than any of you ever did," the crowd murmured. One warrior stepped forward. "He has poisoned your mind." "No," she shouted. He opened it. Her voice grew stronger. "You call me cursed. You chained me. You left me to die alone in the wild. But look, your curse survived. I lived, I learned, and now I burn with my own fire." As if answering her words, the binding stone in her hand began to glow again, brighter than before. The warriors tensed. "She's activating the stone," one of them yelled. The leader's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. That relic hasn't worked in generations." Nari raised the stone. "Hi, then watch it now." Jack stepped closer. "Nari, what are you doing?" She turned to him, calm and determined. "Finishing what your touch started." A pulse of energy burst from the stone, spreading out in all directions like a wave of heat. Trees swayed, dust lifted. The fire in the camp flared into a pillar of flame. The tribal warriors stumbled back, shielding their faces. Only Jack remained standing beside her. Nari hovered inches above the ground now. Her body glowed faintly, the bindings that once marked her now burning away. "She's transcending," whispered one warrior. "She's becoming." The leader stepped back in disbelief. "No, that's the Lightborn, right? That can't be." Jack stared in shock. "What's happening to you?" Nari looked down at him. Softly, she said, "I'm not just bonded to you, Jack. I'm being reborn. You made it possible. The light finally faded. Nari lowered back to the ground, still herself, but changed. The warriors dropped to one knee. Even the leader bowed her head. You carry the light of ancients, she said. You are no longer exiled. You are chosen. Nari didn't speak. She just turned and reached for Jack's hand. The leader looked at him with unease. And the human, he stays with me. Nari replied without hesitation. Is part of my bond, part of my power. Hurt him. I will return the curse to you. No one challenged her. They left silently. It's no war. No blood. Only respect. As the forest quieted again, Jack let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Well, that escalated quickly. Nari smiled faintly. They won't come again, because they're afraid of you now. She said because they finally saw me. She looked at him, her voice softening. And because I had someone willing to stand beside me. The forest was calm again. But inside Jack, everything had changed. He sat by the dying fire, staring at the glowing stone in his hand, the same stone that had once pulsed like a heartbeat between him and in single quotes Ari. Now, she stood. Nearby, silent as well, watching the sunrise break through the trees. The light touched her face in a way that made her seem less alien and more real. More human than most people Jack had ever met. But she wasn't human. And neither of them knew what that truly meant anymore. Jack finally spoke. So, what happens now? Nari didn't turn around. I should go, now that my people accept me again. I can return to the city. Maybe help others who are exiled like me. Jack's heart sank. He tried not to show it. Right, that makes sense? Silence. Then she said, but that's not the question you really meant. Jack looked up. No, you're asking if I'm leaving you behind. He nodded slowly. Nari turned to face him now, eyes glowing just a little like soft embers that hadn't fully cooled. I was prey once, she said. Hunted, trapped, thrown away. Been called weak, dangerous, cursed. But you never treated me like prey. You gave me space, gave me kindness. Jack gave a small smile. I also dropped you in mud, she smirked. Yes, that too. She stepped closer now. And you know what prey doesn't do? She asked. Jack tilted his head.
What?
Prey doesn't choose to stay, she held out her hand. The binding stone floated between them, again glowing brighter than ever before. Partners do, she finished. Jack took her hand gently. So we're partners now, Nari nodded. More than that. Later that day, they packed what little gear Jack had. The forest that had once tried to kill him now felt different, safer, familiar, like it had become something else entirely. Where are we even going? Jack asked as they walked. Nari looked toward the horizon. Somewhere no one tells us who to be. And if your people try to pull you back, she smiled, then I'll show them what happens when a cursed girl becomes a storm. Chuckled. Remind me not to get on your bad side. You already did, she said teasingly. But you're lucky I like your cooking. Liar, you said it nearly killed you. That was before you stopped adding roots that glow in the dark. Jack rolled his eyes. One time, as the sun dipped low again, they made camp under the open sky. No tent, no fear. Just the crackling fire and the stars blinking above. Nari leaned her head on Jack's shoulder. I used to wonder if I'd die alone in that forest, she whispered. But now I wonder if maybe I was meant to be caught by you. Jack looked down at her. Funny, he said. I set that trap to catch dinner. Nari smiled softly, still caught something wild. And as the fire slowly dimmed and the stars danced above them, to souls one human. One alien sat together not as prey and captor, not as rescuer and rescued, but as equals, as partners, maybe even more. And in the darkness, the binding stone pulsed once, not in warning, but in peace.